move to the first change, which is negative gearing. Now, I think this is the easiest to understand and probably the least controversial. So everything is pretty much normal until 30 June 2027. So nothing changes until next year. You just claim everything as you already have. But after that, you cannot negatively gear a residential property that you don't already own now, unless it is a new residential property. But for everything else, all other asset classes, from July next year, they remain the same. You can still negatively gear them. So, and anything that you own now, any residential property that you own now, or as of last Tuesday, can also be negatively geared until you sell it. And that includes your main residence that you have now, if you move out and start gearing that. The budget tax explainer on this was quite good. If you really want to read 10 pages of the negative gearing change, go to budget.gov.au, read this explainer. But I've taken, I think, some of the most important parts of it. So what it says really, I think, as the underlying theory is that from July next year, losses related to existing residential investment properties purchased from 12th of May 2026 will only be deductible against other income from residential properties, including capital gains. And it didn't say that property, it said against residential properties. So when I read that, I thought, does that mean that if you have other positively geared properties, you can offset your losses against those? Because I don't think that's what they would mean to do, that someone with 5 or 6 positively geared properties could still buy a negatively geared property and offset the loss against that. But that's how I read it. So, that's something that would also have to be clarified. Is that how it's supposed to work, or is that how it's going to work? But if it's not, what happens if this property never becomes positively geared and you don't make a capital gain on the sale? Does the loss just evaporate forever? That doesn't seem right either. So I do think that you may be able to offset against existing residential income, because otherwise it's going to require some sort of tracking in your tax returns per property. Here's an example, though, of what this policy is basically intended to do. So, now if we had a property that's purchased and our rent's $45,000, but our expenses are $55,000, we'd have a $10,000 loss. We could offset that against our wages and reduce our tax that way. From July next year, if we've bought it after now, and we make a $10,000 loss, we just carry that loss forward. If we make a $15,000 profit in the next year, I don't know how, we've paid off our loan, we've inherited some money, paid off that loan, so we don't have the interest expense, we could then use that $10,000 loss to offset this year's income. Or if we just keep making this $10,000 loss 5 times in a row, and then we sell the property and make a big gain, we could use that $50,000 loss carried forward against that capital gain. But if you buy a new property, then you can just keep doing everything exactly as you already have. You can keep using these losses to offset wages income. But what is new? And there's a table in that explainer that says it's targeting newly constructed properties that genuinely add to housing supply. So things that will be eligible: a new apartment bought off the plan, a duplex constructed after something is knocked down and rebuilt. So a single property knocked down, build a duplex, that adds to supply because now there's 2. But what's not eligible, knock down one property and rebuild that, because that's 1-to-1. So that is not eligible. Residential vacant land that then built on, that is eligible. So this became sort of another question to me of, well, who's it got to be vacant for? Does it have to have been vacant since the start of time? Or, can you buy it, own it, knock it down, sell it to a different entity, and then it's vacant land when it acquires it and build on that? Is that new? And how do you work out whether it is new or not when you're the buyer? Because you've got to find out what was there beforehand. So that will also have to be worked through. Negative gearing potential strategies: retain and rent out your main residence. So Government Office confirmed this today, that yes, your main residence will be fine to negatively gear as long as you owned it last Tuesday. and potentially, keep those positively geared properties to offset future negatively geared properties. Also, I think there'll be a downturn in demand from other investors, so you might be able to get some good prices if you choose to buy that now. One trap, if you're using your existing property that was your main residence, borrowing against that to buy a new main residence, that extra borrowing will not be deductible. It doesn't matter what the security for the loan is, it matters how you've used the funds. So if you've used the funds to purchase a main residence, that's not earning rent, that won't be deductible. So just the loan that's there to acquire that property that's being rented. We all loving the negative gearing changes? No? No winners yet. Okay.